Welcome to Positive Recovery MD. If you're listening, chances are you want to create happiness around you and thrive in your life. We're glad you're here and you've come to the right place. This podcast will inspire and motivate you to not merely survive your recovery journey, we'll give you the tools to build or strengthen your foundation to thrive and flourish in your life. Each week, we'll come together as a community to have authentic conversations around addiction, recovery, and what matters. Growth and progress, not perfection. All while developing positive habits for you to utilize in your life. To learn more, please visit positiverecoverymd.com to sign up to receive the daily positive interventions that we'll review, as well as gain access to exclusive Positive Recovery content available only to Positive Recovery MD listeners. All right, let's get started.
Good afternoon, morning, or daytime, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another installment Positive Recovery MD with your host, Dr. Jason Powers. Julie DeNofa is in the house, and we have a guest named Sonny Mayo. Is that right?
Tis I, yes, Sonny Mayo.
Sonny Mayo instead of cloudy Mayo. Sonny Mayo.
It would be rainy, actually. Would be the opposite.
Wouldn't it be rainy mustard?
That's my cousin.
Okay, gotcha. I got funny jokes about my cousin too, but only because I took my wife's last name. But in any case, that's a funny story. But Sonny Mayo is a ambassador for Rock to Recovery. He's a brand ambassador, actually, which I think is one step above ambassador. I think you've got like chief, you've got the consultant or the consul, and then, brand ambassador is pretty big. Board member, program administrator, recovery coach. He is a professional musician, teacher, breathwork healer. He's a former vet tech, and he survived 2 heart attacks. Wow. Let me ask you a few questions to get the ball rolling. And so what we do on this podcast is twofold. Like, we try to, elicit people's stories, whether or not they're in recovery. The fact that you are, bonus, whatever you're comfortable talking about, all of it. We will explore, but to provide hope through your overcoming, through your resilience, and love to hear about that. And the second thing we do is provide a vehicle for people to improve their well-being, hence the positive intervention and other things that we talk about. So to kind of get the ball rolling, let me ask you a few questions a la James Litton. What's your favorite word?
Rad.
What's your least favorite word?
No. What's
your favorite food?
Vegan.
Okay, that's a food? Isn't that like a genre? Last meal. What's your last meal? You got one
vegan
meal
omelet that I had just now. Vegan omelet, just egg, Beyond sausage, breakfast links. Patties, chopped red onion, chopped red pepper, mushroom with some killer vegan cheese, and some hummus on the side.
Right on.
Nutrition, cool. Doc. Nutrition.
What's your favorite sound?
What is my favorite sound? I don't know. Maybe silence.
I am with you on that. What's your least favorite sound?
like digital static, because I do home recordings and stuff. Right. That's why I had this trouble. I'm grateful that my studio is set up the way it is because I can compensate. But I had an issue with this, which is supposed to be helpful to my home studio, but it was giving me this sound, and it's not good. So I'm so grateful that I don't think about
my least favorite sound is that fax machine noise. That I didn't like.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I did
remember that old. Yeah. What gets you going? What sort of makes you happy, if any, one thing, or kind of what turns you on in a non, sexual way? What
gets me? Honestly, it's witnessing people help others. It could be other people, it could be animals, it could be whatever. But witnessing people be kind and be of service, and potentially I had a hand in helping them get to the place where they could then help others.
All right, killer.
That makes.
What did I just ask?
What did
I just ask you?
What gets me stoked?
Okay, great. What quenches your fire then? What turns you off?
Oh,
I couldn't figure out how I worded it last.
What quells the fire?
Yeah.
Bullheadedness and like self-aggrandizing people.
Got it. Got it.
And cruelty, people who are cruel.
All right. So let's say when you die, let's just assume there's a God, you're at the pearly gates. What would you like to hear from him, her, it?
I would like to just walk into doggy heaven.
Okay. Gotcha. So we have a couple things in common. sort of, not really. This is sort of not uncommon, but you being a vet tech reminded me of a story with my son when we were young. And there was a guy panhandling with a sign that says former vet, whatever else, right? And I was like, my son Daniel always, he's very curious about the world and everything. And I don't know how it came up, but the question I asked him is like, what are the odds that he's actually a vet? And he goes, none. I said, none? How do you know that? He goes, look at him. Even the animals would be afraid of him.
Aww.
I thought it was veterinarian. And then
saw that coming. I was like, here it goes.
But one thing we have in common sort of is that I think your first major band that you toured with or whatever was called Snot. And I had a iguana named Mucus. So I feel like we're brothers.
You named your iguana Mucus?
Yes.
Okay.
You named your band Snot?
Yeah.
I mean, right back at you. I love it.
Yeah. I kind of got outvoted on that one, but.
Oh, really? You didn't really want that? Well, then.
I was like, really going to go with this? Well, okay.
Did your band members have a lot of allergies or what was going on there?
Yeah, I think it was the main dude that came with the hat, the Mikey Doling, who sort of started the band.
Right.
And had this idea. He kind of wanted to just be as obnoxious as possible and see if we could get away with it.
Okay.
So that's why he said Snot. And then it was like, yeah. And I was like, but no managers, lawyers, record labels, or any other, things that were going to help us be elevated had anything to say about it. But like, yeah, let's do this. You guys are great. Let's go. And I was like, good name. No, we're going to be okay.
We're going to go Snot. Okay.
But we didn't really cash in on we didn't do a lot of the, we didn't do the gratuitous discharge.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of looked at it like the British, kind of like snotty, like an attitude.
Oh, right.
Like the attitude rather than the actual.
But nothing to do with your beak.
No,
it was all just about perspective. So so tell us your story. You were in recovery. I know that's not a secret, but sort of, whenever I'm asked to tell my story after all these years, I got sober a couple of years after you. I find that I gloss over so many things that I used to say. And I'm sort of, it's just, if you could, when you tell your story, think about like one or two of the epiphanies that you had that stuck with you, because we changed so much over time. Right. And I know I don't need you to like stay in the horror, but definitely give us an idea of what it was like, how bad it was like, what happened, obviously, and what happened now and what it's like now. And
yeah, I feel like I should say it. My name's Sonny. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Sonny.
Exactly. Hi. And when I say alcoholic, I am referring to the condition, the seemingly hopeless state of mind and body that includes other substances other than just alcohol,
Got it.
The programs that we have, the 12-step programs, have been so splintered that sometimes it feels like, well, I'm just this or I'm not that. So I'm going to, and for me, it is all encompassing. I don't qualify for all of the 12-step programs, but several of them. But I have found the solution in the OG, the original 12-step program. I'm talking about Friend of Bill's Society, if you will. And so I grew up in Virginia, Northern Virginia. And I tell you, man, I'll try to tap the things that I don't always say, but I feel like I was born sad, and I never knew until later when I took the steps and I looked back and I went, oh my God, I had this sadness, this longing inside. We always say these things like, not being good enough and stuff, but I can be specific. Like if the three of us were friends, I had this notion, and wasn't even necessarily conscious of it, that the two of you were better friends with each other than either of you were with me. And so that feeling of I don't belong or outsidedness, but I wasn't really conscious of it until later, until I really hit bottom. And so the things that I started to tap into that made it feel different, mainly here, my thought was changed when I smoked weed or I ate Dexedrine as a kid or, whatever it was, Vivarin pills, which I don't know if anybody that's watching or listening knows Vivarin, but they're just caffeine pills. I love me some coffee still. That's an AA approved drug, by the way. Caffeine. Ding. And I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, but I did. Man, I tell you, I discovered the change with mostly with marijuana and stimulants when I was a kid. And I felt like suddenly I thought, wait, I can dance and all of us, man, we're so tight. We're so close. I can play. I'm good at this. I don't suck. Whatever the thoughts were, I was like, whoa, it kind of came out, right? And then it got a hold of me physically. So sure, I like the sensation, oh man, weed or whatever it was, like the physical sensation, but it's really what it did into my thinking. It changed the way I thought. And I had a separation from God, if you will, the traditional, Pentecostal God of my grandfather. My grandfather was a Pentecostal preacher, pastor from Southern Virginia. I mean, speaking in tongues, slamming the book down, you're going to burn. They were down the street. No snakes. The snakes were down the street, yeah. But they were close, right down the way. And I never felt that, man. I was like, it never landed with me. I never felt the love. It scared me. And so I got mad at it and I cursed it, you made me, so you're the one who messed up, all that. And so that sent me into a direction where I actually didn't really have a personal connection, at least that I was aware of.
So did you think actually God and everybody were better friends with each other than they were with you? Is that the same thing?
That's totally. I was on the outside. But I love animals and I love being kind to people and I love music and art and children. So that's in me, right? And I felt that, but I was angry, man. And I drank on it. And I did, drank at it or whatever. And then I went to rehab when I was 16 years old. I was put in rehab, and the allergy and the mental obsession had arrived in this being, which I hold to that. That makes sense to me in my life. I know you can't do a blood test or whatever. I did a food allergy test. Right. I have a nickel allergy, all this stuff, right? But you can't do that test, right? But here's the test. Can I do it and stop? Can I not obsess on it? No, I can. Those things I cannot do. So I ended up going to rehab, and I faked it till I maked it, which I think is nonsense. That notion, maybe the notion is the fake it till you make it is good if you tell the person what it actually means, which means just act as if the actions that you're taking now are going to affect you well in the future, or just skip that whole thing. And that what I like to say to people is, it doesn't even matter if I believe that this action is going to work. If you're my trainer or you're my doctor and you tell me to eat this, meditate, to exercise, whatever, it doesn't matter what I believe. It matters what I do. And then I change. It doesn't matter if I believe that lifting weights is going to change me. It's going to. Period.
So these are lessons. This lesson important. You learned after the rehab stint at 16 years old? Because this sounds like no. Okay, right. Because chronologically, I'm with you at 16 years old.
I'm still jumping. Yeah. I didn't feel it, man. I faked it and then I drank is what happened. An old timer thought he was helping me and he goes, fake it till you make it. And I was like, okay. And so I lied and I just acted. I faked it. I didn't know what it meant. I was a child.
Yeah. Fake what until you make it work.
Right. And so I drank. And so here's the thing too, that I'd like to share with some people as far as my experiences. I was 16. I only had access to drugs. I mean, funny that's what I had access to.
No, that's the way it still is. It's easier to get pills. Now I'm sure it's easier to get actual edibles, like not just cannabinoids, but the tetrahydrocannabinol in whatever form. It comes in wax and oils and suppositories. I mean, there's all kinds of formulations. So it's still kind of the same today.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And so
you were doing drugs at 16.
I just said I was only an addict. I'm only an addict, don't you know? I don't have a problem with alcohol. Unbeknownst to me at the time, what I was doing to myself was I was reserving the right to drink. I had no clue. I was going, I'm just an addict. And literally in the background was, when I get the chance, I'm going to just drink because I don't have a problem with that. Well, I discovered that I do have a problem with that as well. That is a problem as well. So I literally tried to control and enjoy my drinking from the age of 17 to the age of 30 and back and forth. I didn't ever go in and out of AA or rehab, but I got in trouble with my band members and relationships and jobs and all these things. And eventually I did get a record deal at the age of 25 and put a record out with the band Snot. And I was starting to circle the drain, man. So the singer actually died. Our singer died.
Yeah.
And he actually was loaded when he was killed, sadly. He died because as a result of his addiction, but it wasn't OD. It was a car crash. And it was his fault. That's the most tragic part of it, is it was his fault. And the dog that's on the cover, which is right here also, right there, Dobbs.
Is that an American bulldog?
Or it's a boxer.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he was like our band dog. And so he kept us sane, that dog. I love him. And he was in the car with Lynn when he passed, crushing. Yeah. And so I kind of scraped along the bottom, but still got into another band, got another record deal, did some touring. But then I really hit bottom in late 2001. It was over, man. Either I was going to go onto the streets or I was going to change. And so
how did you know that? I mean, what were you really, did you have an intervention or were you just penniless or like what was really
What made you say it was over?
It was a realization. It was one of those moments of like, I can't go on, but I don't know how to stop. So I got a girlfriend somehow who's now my ex-wife, but we had been together for 6 months and she'd been dealing with me coming off meth and all this other stuff, right? Going back and forth and then being like, I want to stop. I really do. And then 3 days later, I'd feel better and I'd start going, I'm probably doing okay. The obsession would kick in. I deserve it because I'm doing good. So I go smoke crystal meth because that's a great reward system. And so one day, so I was basically homeless. She let me stay at her place because I'd been kicked out of my place. This was at the end of 2001. And I couldn't manage to get away with smoking crystal meth in the apartment with her and her roommates. I didn't get away with it. And then as I was coming down one more time, I hit bottom on the 30th of December of 2001. We were in Mammoth. And I accidentally, because I never purposefully, dropped my stash in the toilet. I was standing over the toilet and I dropped my stash of crystal in the toilet and it was gone. Yeah, it's great, right? And like I finished, I smoked whatever else, but I was wrecked, man. And the next day was the 31st and New Year's Eve, and I faked an injury on the slopes, snowboarding. I thought, oh, my leg, I got to go back to the house and I went back and just went to sleep. Because that's all you can do when you're coming off meth. I was so mad that I didn't have any drugs that I didn't even toast for New Year's Eve that year. I was so belligerent that I didn't even toast. And then the next day we were driving back down the mountain and she's just looking at me asleep in the next to her in the car, like one more time, just like, this guy. We get back to her place and she goes, look, I don't want you here anymore. Your dog can stay, but you got to go. Like my dog was welcome to stay in the bed, but I wasn't welcome to stay on the floor. And she and my dog left. And there was that moment right there, Doc, where I literally was sat there and I went, and this desperation fell over me and this willingness, desperation turned into willingness. I want to be clear that I wasn't clear about anything. I didn't want to get sober. I didn't decide to get sober on New Year's Eve. I was at a turning point and I just sat there and I remembered a friend of mine. This is back when we still had hard lines and you could actually 411, which was directory assistance. You guys probably remember that. And I was sitting there and I remembered my friend Roxanne, who was a dear friend of mine who used to come in and rescue me from like my meth den. And she would take me to get actual real food. And she'd feed me we'd go to this place called Real Foods Daily, which is a vegan place, which I love now, but I hated then. And I'm like, I don't want a walnut loaf. I want Carl's Jr. or, whatever, whatever you guys call it there, Hardee's or whatever. And then she'd be like, look, we're going to go to Starbucks after. You can get a giant latte with all the whole milk you want, but eat this now. And then she would just talk to me, man. She never preached to me. She'd been sober 10 years at that point. She's almost 30 years sober now. And she said, hey, listen, if you're ever ready, just call AA. And I was like, I don't have the number. I don't know the number. And she goes, I'm going to give it to you. You'll never be able to forget this. And I was all, watch me forget this. And she goes, ready? 4, 1, 1. And I was like, damn it. She got me. So I was sitting there. Fast forward back to December 31st, 2001, or January 1st or 2nd of 2001. And I was like, 411. I grabbed the phone. Boop, boop, boop. Directory assistance. It was a human. How can I help you? Alcoholics Anonymous, please. And then for an additional 30 cents, push. Yeah. Directly. And they connected me. And I said, I need help. I can't stop. Please help. And the lady said, wonderful. I said, what's wonderful? She said, where are you? I told her where I was. She said, hold on. She looked at an actual directory, physical directory. She said, there's a meeting starting 7 blocks from you in 20 minutes. We'll go there now. Hang up the phone and go now. Hang up now. And I went to this meeting and there was 5 people and it was, nice fireplace and yummy coffee and stuff. And when it was my turn to share, I said, I can't stop. I don't know what to do. I need help. And they clapped. What are you clapping about?
You're in California. They clap.
Yeah, we clap for everything. Yeah. Julie turned on the lights. Yeah. Right? Clap for everything.
The bar is so low.
And so this guy, a couple people after me, looked at me and he said, hey, man, you need to go to Mario's tomorrow. Go there. It's at 12 noon every single day. Go there and tell them you need help. It's a men's meeting. Go there. They'll help you. And so I went back and I was like, okay. And it was right down the street.
Was that at a pizza joint or a tailor? It just sounded, yeah. It's at Mario's. It's pepperoni pizza time.
Mario,
like an
pizza,
AA meeting.
Pizza place. I've only been vegan for 6 years. And so I went there, man. And I went up the stairs and it was as though I was drowning and they threw me a life preserver. It didn't take any courage. Like when people say, yeah, the newcomers got courage. I was like, I don't have any courage. I have no courage. I'm drowning. You throw me a life preserver. How much courage does it take for me to grab it? Zero. Maybe somebody else has courage, but I didn't. I grabbed that thing like I was dying, and I got in the boat, if you will. And they said, listen, man, tell us about yourself. They didn't tell me to shut up and listen. They didn't tell me to take the cotton out of my mouth, out of my ears, and put it in my mouth. But yeah, man. And I heard a man share, and when he walked over to leave the meeting, I literally blocked him. And I said, you got to help me, man. Please, you got to help me. And he was like, okay. And he gave me a big book and a 12 and 12. And he said, meet me later at this meeting, and I'll help you. And the man became my sponsor, and nice. Took me through the steps. I mean, that was 2000. It was obviously I'm class of 01, even though it's the last day.
I mean, who the hell gets sober on New Year's Eve, for God's sakes?
Junkie. Somebody who hit bottom on the 30th. I didn't even know what day it was. When somebody was like, hey, what's your sobriety date? I was all, well, Tuesday was the last day or Monday was the last thing I did something. They were like, oh, that was the 30th. Oh, so your sobriety date's the 31st. And I said, okay. I don't care.
One day of the year we're the most normal.
Right. Well, we're actually allowed to do all the things. I call it rookie night or amateur night.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. So there's like the quick up to the getting sober, and that was 18.75 years ago.
So what's been your biggest surprise so far in your recovery?
Not being afraid when I had a heart attack.
Yeah, let's go over that. Where were you? Which artery was clogged? Everything, man.
Yeah. So at the time I actually had 14 years sober. Now I had left. Well, I was in a band at the time when I got sober, and I left the band so that at 3 months, so I could get my life together. Yeah. So I got sober. I left the band I was in, went back to it, tried to get a normal life so I could take the steps, started working with animals again. And then as I was taking the steps, when I got right around the 9th step, I started getting invited into bands. Like I wasn't even auditioning for these bands. They were asking me to come and play with us under the condition that I'm not partying, because they all knew me. They were like, what's your party situation? Literally, they would say, what's your party situation? I'm sober X amount of time. Cool. You want to join our band? Yes, I do. So I started touring sober before these magical devices. So I was looking up AA meetings on, in the yellow pages, and, going to the business center of a hotel and paying $15 for 7 minutes on the internet, to look up. Is
that what you did in Australia?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I did it all over the United States until the iPhones came out, or until the smartphones came out. So then continuing. So I got to go on tour sober and walk through those things, man. The situations where you should not be able to stay sober.
Right.
Where it's full on. I mean, it is celebrated and it is encouraged for you to live fast, die young, and leave a good-looking corpse, as the king would say. Or at least one king. And so I'm quoting Clarence Worley, quoting Elvis Presley.
Well, I don't think he lived by it, because that guy was fatter than me at the end.
Not good looking at the end.
Oh.
Yeah. So I got some really great experience, man, walking through the valley of the shadow of death, if you will, and fearing no evil, man, and standing up, being upright, being like, mm-mm.
So was it a valley? Was it a valley?
It's all a valley. We're in it right now.
Got it.
Yeah, we're in the valley right now. Yep.
I knew it, Julie. I told you. It
just got darker as he said that. The room got darker.
Well, it's because I don't have the light on me. That's it.
Yeah, man. So then years later, once I had like a nice run in the touring world and making records, I stepped back because my friend Wes Geer started Rock to Recovery. I mean, so much stuff happened, man, in those years. It's like highlight a window of it. But around the time that Rock to Recovery was being formed, I went through the most difficult year of my life. And this is not when I had the heart attacks. This is when my dog died, my dad died, and my marriage died, all in the same year. Literally February, June, and November, those three things subsequently happened. And in the midst of it, Wes Geer said, hey, man, and I actually toured with him in the band Head PE that he founded. And he wasn't sober when I toured with him. That was the first band I toured with sober. And they were like, this guy. And the singer would let me, I went to the lead singer and said, hey, man, this is back in 2002. I said, hey, every day, man, is it cool? Just give me 15, 20 minutes in the back lounge, because singers take over the back lounge because they're the singers, right? And that's cool. We want them to be happy. We need our lead singers to be happy because this is their instrument. They can't change the strings or whatever. And so he said, yeah, man, I will honor that. So every day I go, and I would take my little daily reflections and my Emmett Fox around the year, probably 24 hours a day book at the time. Maybe I had another one. I was just a stack of daily meditation books. And I would go back there and it would smell like weed. There'd be a bong right there. There'd be some spilled beer. And I would sit there and I would read my books. And then I would set a timer, or I would sit and I would count 12 breaths, 3 times. I would go 12, up to 12, and really slow. And like inhale, exhale is 1, right? And it would be 10 minutes, whatever it was. I didn't time it. And then I would go about my day, and I would usually go find a meeting. I would exercise. I would get into the world, man. Whereas before I was stuck in my bunk because I was hungover, or I was coming off coke, or something, right? And so I got to do that all the way through until I kind of stepped back. I did a little bit more touring after 13, but not much, because I joined Rock to Recovery, which is my jam, which you named all the things that I do in this company earlier. And so, but 2016, July 21st, right there, I had a beautiful woman from Australia who was visiting me at the time, just coming in for a little hang out with me for a little bit. And she almost killed me. Just kidding. I mean, I almost died while she was here. I was at the gym this particular day, and I felt some chest pain. And I was working out with my nephew. Felt chest pain, and I felt this weird like tourniquet right here. But ignorant as I am, I kind of blew it off and just was like, I'm just probably, exhausted or overworking or something. And that night I was lying in bed, and I woke up at 3:00 in the morning, sat up like that. And she sat up, and she's like, "What's up?" And I said, something's wrong. Something's not. And she goes, "We're going to the hospital right now." And we went to the hospital, and we got there. I walked in, I said, "Chest pain," all the things. And they did a little test, and they said, "Yeah, you're having a myocardial infarction." I don't know which it was. I had 4 blockages, and I don't know which. It obviously wasn't the Widowmaker, because
it wasn't. No, you could still have blockage of it.
Oh, I guess so. I don't know actually which one it was. I don't think it was. Which one is that, Doc?
The left anterior descending coronary artery.
I don't think it was that one, but I don't know.
In any case, you're here. That's great. So did you have bypass surgery?
No, I had stents, 4 stents. And
you look like a guy with stents. That's what I was telling Julie immediately.
Yeah.
You look stenty.
Very stenty. And I doubled down. I got 4 the first time and 1 the second time. Yeah, man. So as I found myself, here's the thing, is I took the 12 steps. It took me 11 months and 7 days to have a spiritual awakening, to get to step 12, and for it to happen without me going, okay, now the obsession's been removed.
Right.
It was removed. And then I went, because I had this profound spiritual experience that night, and I wept and I sobbed like I had just been born. And I felt so different the next morning. And I went to my sponsor and was like, I think I had a spiritual awakening last night. And he goes, and he was so rad. He's like, yeah, you did. And he was eating at the time. He was like eating. And he goes, yeah, you did.
So wait, was this the day after your surgery? Like, when was this?
I know, I jump around all the time.
Yeah, that's great.
When I had 11, I want to share this because I'm thinking of new people and positivity and recovery. So in my first year, which was 2002, let's call it, I took the 12 steps, and it took me 11 months and 7 days to take those 12 steps. The obsession was removed. I didn't stop taking the steps.
Right.
I then started to take other people through the steps and to try to cultivate my program. Like, I like to sort of freestyle or jam with my 11th step. Like, try breath work, and try mantra, and try, still consciousness meditation, and try all these different things for yoga and all these things. Like let's see what happens. And prayer. And I do the inventories, but I try to take people through the steps all the time as well. And this changed me, man. So the result, if you will, the aggregate of that up until 2016 and beyond, is that when I was in the emergency room, and there was 5 people buzzing around me, and they're like putting in IV catheters in both arms, and the pulse oximeter, and the blood pressure cuff, and the EKG stuff, and they're buzzing around me, and I'm just sitting there going, okay, this is happening. And I look over, and there's one other guy over in the corner, and he's pulling up something in a syringe, and I go, hey, what you got there? And he says, morphine. And this is where sanity had returned. This is the proof that sanity had returned, meaning I do not have the obsession to drink and use. I've recovered from alcoholism. Not cured, recovered. I'm not suffering from it anymore. I go, hey, man, no thanks. No, thank you. And he goes, the doctor said, and I go, tell the doctors, thank you so much. And maybe later, but I don't need it right now. That was
it actually helps oxygenation, because when you're having a heart attack, your body is under stress. You're releasing a lot of catecholamines, like adrenaline, right? And that helps relax it. But I get it. Like, when you said your sanity returned, I was hoping you were going to say, and you know what? I let the doctor do his job.
Well, there's more. There's more to the story. I do let the doctor do his job.
No thanks on the morphine. Do you got any fentanyl, baby?
Dude, well, here's I'm smiling. It's funny. But the thing is, that is in the story. That stuff's in the story. Like that is in there where during the second heart attack, I said, what do you got? Literally, I said, what do you got? He goes, morphine. I go, thank you.
Okay. All right.
And this was a year and a half later. And then 10 minutes. Okay. So 2018, when I was having the second heart attack and they gave me morphine, 10 minutes later, they go, hey, is the morphine working? I said, no. They go, we're going to give you some more. I said, thank you. And so I did do that. So there's the balance.
Awesome.
They didn't tell me the whole thing about the whole
the guy giving it to you didn't sound like he knew it if he was saying, well, the doctor said, let's shift gears. And it's not like I'm opposed to having you back because I want to hear about the Rockers to Recovery. And then I want us to go over the positive intervention and, if Julie has anything, but Rock to Recovery. What is that about?
You see it?
It's about water bottles.
Staying hydrated.
Okay. Very nice. You guys have a nice logo for those that can't see it because you're listening. It's a couple of iguanas.
One's named Mucus, one's named Tom.
That's right.
Wait, is this video? Are we videoing this too? No.
We are, yeah.
Purpose this, but mostly we video so we don't interrupt each other. Honestly, right. It's a podcast,
Gotcha.
Yes. But nobody can see this.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure we include that. Those are all going in, guys.
Okay, good. So Rock to Recovery was started by my friend Wes Geer in 2012. In fact, we're so 12-steppy that he started the company on December 12th of 2012. So 12, 12, 12. Bam. We started off as a nonprofit. My man Wes Geer, again, the guy who I played in a band with, who was not sober at the time, and we threw down previously when we were both not sober. And then I joined the band when he was not sober and I was. And then later he left the band. I stayed in the band for a minute and then I moved on. But he started Rock to Recovery after he was in the band Korn. So once the original guitar player of Korn returned and Wes didn't have that job anymore, he was like, okay, so, all right, God, as I understand God, I need a job and I like helping people and I'm sober and I'm a musician. And he started doing these like Wayne Dyer meditations for manifestation and opening his mind up. He ran into actually a sponsee of mine, a guy who I sponsor, who plays drums in a pretty well-known band. I'll let him tell that if he wants to. But he shared with Wes that, man, we just did this thing at a VA, Veterans Administration, where we just were hanging out and then we just wrote a song with them. And then Wes, it all came to Wes. He went, oh my God, I'm going to start a company. And he went literally called Rock to Recovery. And we're going to go into veterans. We're going to go to VAs and rehabs and mental health facilities. And we're going to write songs with people as a means of therapeutic musical intervention. He didn't think that, but that's what we have to call it now because we're not music therapists. We're group facilitators, program administrators, music therapeutic interventions or therapeutic music interventions. And so he had this idea and he started the company. And then one day, early 2013, so he started it in 2012, late 2012. And then early 13, when I started my hellish year,
right,
he told me, hey man, I got this idea. And you guys, when he told me that, it's almost like there's a part in the big book that I like to translate where it says, we start to, as we recover and as we become recovered, we start to follow the dictates of a higher power, right? So this is one of those cases where it's like, I'm not suffering under God's will. Like, oh, I got to do these things because it's God's will. It's actually like, hey, Sonny, this is what you're doing now. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do that. When Wes said, I got this idea, I was like, I'm doing that. And so I did that. And I was like, man, I want in, whatever it takes to get in. He started this first session in June of 13 in Orange County. I started training with him at that time. We launched in LA in early 14. And then there was two of us. And then we had a third guy who was also in Orange County. And we started to expand. And now we have 14 people. We have LA, Orange County, San Diego. We have Northern California, Portland, Oregon, and Nashville, Tennessee. And there's 14 of us. What we do is we go into a rehab, mental health facility, Veterans Administration, any group setting. We could do a group together. We could do it. It's just a group of people. But we go in there and we start a band with them and we write an original song. It doesn't matter if you have any musical experience.
I was going to ask that.
It doesn't matter. No. In fact, sometimes it's better
if you don't.
People don't. And dude, we have 17,000 songs. 17,000. I'm not kidding. On SoundCloud. So we write the song within 90 minutes to 2 hours. If we have a double, we call it. Sometimes 1 hour. And then record it right then and there, live. And then we upload it to SoundCloud. Some of them are gems, and some of them aren't, but they all get uploaded.
Yeah.
To SoundCloud, and people can go and say, "Hey, mom, dad, sister, brother, whoever,
Yeah,
this is what I did." Yeah, and then they go. I have clients who started bands together from doing rock to recovery and rehabs, and they've gone on to start a band from doing that together. Right?
So awesome! It's a great way for people to kind of get their feelings out, and especially if they're doing the writing of the songs and things like that. That's awesome. I think we should do a podcast and have you back where we do create our own little band.
We can do it.
So much fun.
You can do it.
And I love the work that you're doing, you know, and the fact that you've kind of grown out, right? Like having it in Nashville and Portland and just kind of coming out of California and taking it across the country. That's fantastic.
Can I throw this in too? So we work directly with the Air Force Wounded Warriors.
Okay.
Not the Wounded Warrior Project. That's another nonprofit. We work directly with the Air Force of the United States. We work with the U.S. Air Force. And so we've been working with them since 2014. And what they've done thus far, obviously it's different in the Zoom era, but what they've done thus far is they would fly us to these events, usually quarterly. They call them care events or Day of Healing or Warrior Games and so on. And we would be part of the curriculum where during the day we would do programming with different groups of warriors. And then at night it was voluntary or elective, whatever you want to call it. And people would show up in the evenings and we would write a song over the course of 3 or 4 nights. And then we would go and perform it at the closing ceremonies as a band, as part of the outro. And so we've ended up writing a couple original songs that they want us to keep doing with warriors. And then we perform original ones as well. So they were doing it all over the country with us for a while. Last July, they flew me and Wes to Ramstein Air Base in Germany, the biggest population of Americans outside the United States. There's 65,000 Americans in Ramstein, Germany Air Base.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And we did and I got to work with their kids, you guys. Yo, that was my favorite work I've ever done, to work with children. I'm talking about kids from 6 years old to 18 years old. And we wrote a song together and performed it. I performed it with 24 kids at the closing ceremonies. We had generals coming up to us like, "Can I have my photo with you?" And I said, "Yes, General, you may, but you're going to have to wear this guitar here." And I put a guitar on General for the photo. And a commander, because the commander's the high ranking.
Well, you're an ambassador, man. I think that's above general. I don't really understand the ranking, but I hope they saluted you.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. They did it in their own way. Yeah.
Good.
For sure, you've been an ambassador of recovery, and we so have enjoyed having you. Today, we do at Positive Recovery, we often or every day, we do positive recovery, positive interventions. And today is day 26. And if you haven't, you will be receiving your very own copy of this. And this may be something that will inspire you each day. Getting from cover to cover is just a fantastic guide that we use helping people to thrive in recovery. So I'll start with a quote, and then we'll just jump right in, unless you want to add anything, Dr. Powers, before I do.
No, I'm good.
All right. So a person with one watch will always know the time. A person with 2 watches will always be in doubt. As addicts spend more time in recovery, the road narrows. This means that as they come to their senses and fulfill their potential, they find certain behaviors that were once acceptable to be no longer consistent with their integrity. Addiction is a very large umbrella. Even when addicts put aside drugs, addiction can manifest in new ways. After an emotional or spiritual struggle, for instance, a recovering addict might seek to escape the pain with food, sex, gambling, or other self-destructive process. This tendency mirrors the experiences of having 2 watches. One watch might be set to the true time, representing positive recovery. If addicts are not aware of other destructive patterns they can develop, however, the other watch, a different manifestation of addiction, will display a contradictory time and cause doubt. So for the positive intervention, mind your potential second watch. It might be invisible to you at first. So spend some time introspectively journaling. Try to look at yourself from a third-person perspective. Are there any areas of your life that have fallen out of balance or are trending towards compulsion? How many watches are you wearing?
0.
I'm right there with you with the 0, although if truth be told, I didn't do this positive intervention in preparation for this. However, I would say I'm definitely wearing 2 watches this week. So I can get into that in just a minute. But Dr. Powers, what was your experience with this positive intervention?
Yeah, so I did it. And I got this like little journal book that I started writing in. And so, you know, one of my other watches I've been aware of is like food and my relationship with that. But in journaling, I kind of realized I might be on my iPad too much. So I'm going to limit that. And, you know, it was good. Yesterday, I had a meeting that was going to take up all afternoon. And somehow like the people that were doing it on, you know, the Zoom platform type of thing, it just couldn't work. So I instead of doing that, I was looking for things to do. And I tried to help Julie and Colleen. I couldn't get what they wanted from me. So then I started to, you know, just do some CME. I did some medical education. So it's good. Like writing about it, put it in front of me. And I think I've already started to like inch forward out of it, but
that's cool.
Good. So I'm glad I did that day.
Absolutely. Sonny, how about you? I know you actually are wearing 0 watches, but what does that second watch look like or feel like?
Right. So I do writing, relatively speaking, every single day. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Artist's Way.
Yeah.
It's a program. I continue doing morning pages. So I just write every morning and I just free form. And a lot of 10-step stuff comes out, inventory. And so this stuff comes up. So for me, it's like, I mean, right now it's not food or sex, which it has been, but self-hatred and judgment. Actually judging myself, man. Because I actually got right with social media and I'm not overdoing that. And so the balance for self-hatred and judgment is that I do like the first watch equals having started therapy at the beginning of the lockdown, which I never did before. 18 years sober, and I had never done just one-on-one therapy with a woman who does, it's called core energetics. It's not typical talk therapy. And so getting into that and staying on a routine of morning meditation, yoga, and usually breath work. If I get all 3 of those, watch out, man. It's a great day coming. But that's kind of the second watch is like, you should be farther along than you are. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You've wasted so much time, or that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I feel that.
Not noticing the things that I've done and that I do that are rad.
Good. That's great.
Wow. That is good. Well, thanks for sharing that with us, Sonny. My second watch has been preparing for Joint Commission. For those of you that are listening, it's the accreditation survey that we go through at substance use disorder facilities and hospitals. And it brings up lots of stress for me. And so my second watch has been in the form of like pretzels and cheese puffs and chocolate and whatever, to the point like last night I was like, if I don't eat something green or healthy for me, I felt so sick. So like today I've been really good and I'm like, I gotta get over this, because it just like, I'm definitely putting my second watch up for sure. Not wearing either, but I'm definitely gonna not pick up that second watch again this week. So
JCO, for those who do know.
That's right.
JCO.
Right. Or Daco.
So whenever I hear places when I walk into a treatment center and they're like, oh yeah, JCO, I go, okay, whatever you guys got going on. Like clients can be late to groups, like weekend or whatever you guys like. I get it. Do your thing, and I will just pass through.
No, not Jaco. Sonny. Who's this Jaco guy?
Jaco son.
Well, Sonny, thank you for being a bright, sunshiny spot in our day today, for sure. And I think we're going to have you back on so we can get some more into this.
I mean, I am loquacious, so you get me started. You going to get to stop me.
No problem, dude. We'll do like a music group next time. But thanks so much for joining us. And man, this was a great one. And so thank you for listening, and thank you for your feedback. Keep them coming. And this is Powers and Denofa signing off. Have a good one.
Stay positive.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Positive Recovery MD. Don't forget to visit positiverecoverymd.com to sign up to get your daily positive intervention sent straight to your inbox. Be sure to subscribe to Positive Recovery MD on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts to receive an automatic download when a new episode drops. And as always, if you or someone you know needs help, visit positiverecovery.com or call 877-4-SOBRIETY, which is 877-476-2743. We are here to help.